Hi, I'm Pastor Chris, and welcome to the Walking the Way podcast. I'm the senior minister of First Congregational Church of Naples, Florida, and the founder and executive director of Supply and Multiply, a missions organization reaching the nations for Christ. I'm here at the National Association of Congregational Christian Churches, the NACCC, at the annual Ministers' Convocation, a kind of ministerial retreat, and I was having a conversation about one of the themes of our meeting about communion and the Lord's Supper, and my friend Chaplain Art schooled me up on some great stuff. I want to record it. I want other people to hear what you had to say about the open communion table.
Well, I come from a Roman Catholic background, which doesn't have an open communion table and different things. But I eventually become a Protestant, and I believe in an open communion table. The problem is I didn't know why I believed in it. I just believed in it. So I'm taking a Doctor of Ministry course, and I have to go to Pennsylvania to the Antiochian Seminary over there for one of the courses. And Father Allen was given the course. And as I'm checking in, they say to me, "Did you bring your clericals?" And I said, "Yes." "Oh, great. You can be with us on Friday for prayer and communion." "Oh, but you can't take communion." I said, "What?" "No, you might not have the right faith." I said, "Okay." That irked me, of course. And so I made it my mission that week to understand this whole thing. And what I did was, I was an old debater, so you always use their material to start with. So I got in the bookstore a little pamphlet on their faith and all their beliefs. And I came across St. Basil. St. Basil was a little bit of a heretic. He believed in universal salvation.
Right.
But he was allowed to take communion there because that was a sin of charity.
Yeah.
You know? So I made, as part of my paper, this whole thing about communion table. They had an exclusive one. But they had an interesting concept that I've used for ministry ever since, that I love them for, and that is, we are to represent, not represent, but represent Jesus who is already present. Okay? So I start doing that, and I go back to the bookstore, and one of the things that's kind of interesting with them is in the Eastern Orthodox, they have portraits. They call them iconoclast or something, type of painting, which you all know what they are because everybody's got a halo running over their head,
Right.
you know. So I look at, and there's the halo of the picture of the Last Supper. Well, it's kind of easy, you know who Judas is, because one, he doesn't have one, and the bag of money's right near him.
Right.
And so I felt like the Lord said to me, "Art, what do you see?" Well, me being a practical guy, I said, "Well, I see the guy that's gonna, betray you, but I also see Peter over there, and I don't understand why he's got a halo, because he's gonna deny you." You know? I said, "That's what I see." And then he kind of asked me the question, "Do you think they had the right faith?" Well, I didn't think they understood anything he was really doing at that time. So I said, I don't think they understood it. And then he asked me the last question. He said, "Who invited them to the table?" I said, "Well, you did." And that's when it hit me. Who Christ invites to the table, who are we to deny them?
Amen.
So I wrote my paper on that and used that as a thing for an argument for an open communion table, knowing that Father Allen had already told us that the Orthodox, you have to have the right faith. Well, I wanted to see what his response would be. I never got the paper back. Pittsburgh Seminary couldn't get it back. I passed the course, But that taught me, and it's probably taught me well, because when I went to prison ministry, I had to offer communion to all of them too. But I came away understanding why now I believed in an open communion table. It wasn't me who was doing the inviting. It's Christ.
Amen. Amen. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's very important because there is that distinction in churches between an open and a closed communion table.
Yeah.
And my instinct has always been an open communion table for the very same reason, because Christ offers the whole world. And
Right.
so who am I to say who can and can't?
Right.
And then when I look at the New Testament, the qualifications seem to be entirely between the person and God as to the heart's preparation to receive the communion. And so I appreciate you sharing that story. I thought it was such a good story. I want the people in my church and anybody else to hear it. And so thank you, sir. God bless you today.
God bless you.
Amen.
Amen.